Yeah. But yeah, I think it was approved. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'll look it up if somebody don't put it up before I did. Yeah. Drive safe, Elijah. Drive safe. All right, beautiful people. Father, we thank you that you are new beginnings. And we are beginning Oahspe over again today. I'm super excited. Hold on, let me grab my book. I know some of y'all have probably already started reading or at least listening to the Field Guide to the Spirit World. Look, and that's even one I recommend to the church, right? I recommend all of this to the church, but especially the deliverance ministries. They'd be a whole lot more successful if they really understood some of these things that, I guess going into deliverance ministry a little bit, it should be, well, at least now it would seem that it should be common sense, but you still kind of get like spooky interpretations of stuff when you go in to deliver somebody. I've been on a few of these excursions, these delivery excursions. But I wish I had knew then what I know now, right? Okay, all right, y'all. So let's get started. We started on the page after the plates. You got the table of contents, which is page V or 5. Then you have page VII, which is page 7. And then you have page ix. Yeah, 9. Okay. So ix is 9. I was about to say, did it skip a page? No, ix, because 10 is x, ix is 9, xi is 11. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, that's right. I'm right. Okay. Y'all know me. I'm still trying to get these Roman numerals under control. But we're starting on page 9, or page ix. Matter of fact, if you're online, I think the list of portraits is at the top before the actual contents of the books where you can click on is highlighted. So they got like the intro, the preface, all of that is above the actual books. So if you dare go all the way to the top, and it should be the first or the second one, right? Okay, so list of portraits. Make sure that's up. Okay. All right, y'all. The portrait reproductions that appear in this text were taken from photographs of the original portraits that had been painted automatically by Dr. Nubro while he was residing at Shalom. All the portraits were destroyed sometime after Shalom was permanently closed. The paintings were originally hung in the Cosmon Church of Shalom. For fuller information than is given below, see index. Now, this kind of answers my question that we had the first time. Going back here, never paid, well, clearly I had to get through it first just to kind of pay attention and get to the point where we at, researching and finding out about what happened with the disconnect, right? So remember we had some questions about these pictures of who was who. Like, wait a minute. There's a lot of things that verify that some of these people is copper colored. I mean, even his words in here say that these people were copper colored. Why do they still look like they're not copper colored, right? Boom. We understand a little bit why, because remember the shenanigans happened after, like a little bit before, they actually began to create the community of Shalom. Let me read this again. For those of you who've been here and that's been reading through with us and been looking at these pictures, listen. And all the recent stuff we just found out, how they was infiltrated by Masons, Freemasons, and all that stuff, right? Listen. The portrait reproductions that appear in this text were taken from photographs of the original portraits that had been painted automatically by Dr. Nubaro while he was residing at Shalom. Did I read that right? Portraits that had been painted automatically. Look, and they got automatically in air quotes and the quotations, right? Before and the end of automatically, right? Because you was already in Shalom. The actual automatic writing happened before Shalom was even created, right? I'm just saying. Oahspe College University, shalom, shalom. Dairy CM, shalom, Shebrew. Hey, girl, hey. All right. The portrait reproductions that appear in this text were taken from photographs of the original portraits that had been painted automatically by Dr. Newbro while he was residing at Shalom. All the portraits were destroyed sometime after Shalom was permanently closed. We can see why. They should have been. Based on all that we learned about the Creator allowing things to be destroyed. Yes. Listen. All the portraits were destroyed sometime after Shalom was permanently closed. The paintings were originally hung in the Cosmon Church of Shalom. For fuller information than is given below, see index. Let me just look real quick. I don't know that we looked at the index before. Let me just look up like portraits. Let me see something. Poor man, possessions, poverty, powder. Let me see, Shalom. It don't really say where in here, but Shame, Shalom. Temple. Yeah. Okay. We'll just keep going. Because it doesn't say exactly where. And I would just think you would look up like Shalom, anything got to do with the portraits, or look at the portraits throughout here and find it out. I'm past the touch on you on this. What? Oh, maybe you meant to say torch, typo. I'm sorry. Hold on. He said, I'm in spirit. I woke up with a dream about this color complexion, with this color complexion thing. Dreadful cause, my peace, love, light, and balance to the righteous gods, Nirvanian goddesses bless up. Okay, that's what I thought you said. Pass the torch. I'm gonna pass the torch to you on this one. I don't know. Like I just be paying attention to the details, and we'll see. Hopefully, we'll get some deeper revelations as we read through the second time. Add some fasting to it this time around. You know, and especially when we get the actual copies of the plates. From New Mexico State University here in a few weeks. Super excited about that, right? Because when we get it, we're going to be like, if anything is missing, like from what we have, which I'm almost certain it is, I'm going to work it in. Like, we're going to like say if we in Book of Sathantes, right? And then we get this stuff. I'll finish up the Book of Sathantes. We'll pause right there, and then we're gonna go to the what we got, right? And we're gonna go through that, and then when we get done, we'll come back here, right? And then we'll keep reading and just see how that all pans out. Okay. All right. That's at least what we might do now, unless I figure out how to do it differently. All right. Key, bless up, bless up. Do I have a website? Yep, it's awakeningtruthministry.com. I haven't updated it since I put it up. So it got some of the, not older videos, but it doesn't have any of the Oahspe stuff, any of the Oahspe videos. So it's been at least 6 months, at least 171 days, right? But I got to go there and I got to update it and create a whole new page, tab at the top for Oahspe, so I can start adding this stuff in here. But what you'll get there is me waking up from the church and recent videos and some of the more funny titles with some of the stuff that I said, right? So I'll leave some of that up, but I'm gonna update it with all of this. But you know, got a whole lot of stuff going on. So all right, yeah, I'm definitely, once we get that, all this stuff is going to be up there, the gallery, all that stuff. Thank you for that. Okay, y'all. Go back to page 9, and we'll start with the name Zarathustra. Fritz, shalom, brother. Okay, Zarathustra, or, and in parentheses, it has Zoroaster, or Zoroaster. You probably recognize this name by like I think it's pronounced Zoroaster. I have a book. I think it's on my other bookcase. with like Zoroaster and something, but I hadn't made the connection until I read Oahspe that it was Zarathustra. I'm like, holy crap. Okay, so Zarathustra, or Zoroaster, page 148, erroneously called Zoroaster, a Persian lawgiver who lived in the cycle of Fragapati more than 9,000 years ago, the farthest back of all historical characters. Both Buddhist and Christian religions are said to be made up chiefly from the history and miracles of Zarathustra. It was to obliterate such history that Cotulus, a Christian priest, burned the Alexandrian library in the year 390 AD. 3 Christian monks again burned it in the year 640 AD for the same purpose, but more effectively. Zarathustra was of enormous size and of neither sex, being an ix-xii. Poe, P.O., page 265, of Japheth, afterward called China, was also an ix-xii. He was a lawgiver contemporaneous with Abram of Persia, living more than 5,800 years ago, and in the cycle of Spenta Armige. He also taught, like Zarathustra, the doctrine of one great spirit, which doctrine he reestablished in Japheth, or China. So since we're starting over, let's run to the glossary real quick and look up the definition of an ix-xii, right? And we'll find this on page 778. It says ix-xii is like literally the middle part of the page, left hand side. ix-xii, comma, Yeshua, a sexless person, one born without the possibility of sexual passion, also one who has attained that state of mind to be one with all light, such as Brahma, improperly called ix-xii. The name Jesus was derived from this term. The Hebraic word ix-xii is spelled I-E-S-U, right? The Hebraic word I-E-U-E was made from ix-xii, I-E-S-U, one who can hear the voice of the Great Spirit. IU has been improperly confounded with Jehovah. Right, so even if you go, you can see that that's true by even looking through some of the biblical history, Hebrew words and stuff, and how Jesus became Jesus today before it had a J, right? It'll show you the etymology of that, and it'll give you the correct etymology of it, right? Okay. Go back to page 9, Abram, page 276. And these page numbers is where you find their stories. So if you just wanted to jump right to it and read over their stories, jump to those pages. Abram, page 276, afterward called Abraham, and Ehuan, large and red like new copper, and had black hair and a long beard, fierce to look upon, but he was a gentle soul. He was a Persian and the founder of the ancient Hebrews, or Israelites, and it's spelled Israelites, but here is spelled with a Z, is I-Z apostrophe Zerlites, Israelites. Also the founder of Migration for Religion's Sake. He took his followers into Egypt, the first time it's spelled E-G-U-P-T, and then you have it in the parentheses, E-G-Y-P-T. Next is Brahma, page 290, an East Indian lawgiver contemporaneous with Poe and Abram. He was a large man of great strength and ranked the highest spiritually of all mortals. He reestablished the Zarathustrian religion in India, being that there is only one creator, right? You say some of these names today, people who are ignorant of these things think it's going to a whole other religion where they're actually worshiping these people. And that's what happened. They idolize the people who were trying to teach you about the one creator, and they themselves don't worship themselves, neither do they declare themselves to be God. They said there is only one. To him is who you should give all of your allegiance. Turn back to him, right? But after they die, they idolize them, right? And then they become the God, something that they were frowned upon if they were still living, right? They themselves will tell you, do not do this. This is what you call blasphemy against the Creator. Okay, Utiv, fairest of women, wife of Brahma. And you can find her story clearly in there with that of Brahma. Iwata, or Hiawatha, page 310, a North American contemporaneous with Poe, Abram, and Brahma. He was taller than any other man with a bright, shining face of copper. He established among the North Americans of his time the worship of the Great Spirit, which is here, North America. That's what Iwata, right? Was that? He established among the North Americans of his time the worship of the Great Spirit, and his doctrines are still held by many of the tribes of native North Americans who refuse to accept any other God or Savior. Iwata established the United States of America of the native North Americans called Opa-Igoquim or Algonquin. The model of his independent nations, united in one, was that which was adopted in the formation of the present United States of America. Thothma, or Hojax, page 375. The builder of the Great Pyramid in Egypt and one of the greatest adepts that ever lived. He could hear the gods and talk with them understandingly, and could cast himself in the death trance and go spiritually into the lower heavens and return at will. He was under the inspiration of the false god Osiris through his great angel servant gods Baal and Egypt. He labored to establish immortality in the flesh, that is, to make the mortal body incorruptible so that it would never die. But with all the forces of his will and by his great learning, he could not stay the withering of the flesh, and he died on the day he was 100 years old. And we can see how Thothma was terribly deceived by the false gods, right? Thinking that he would, if y'all see it the first time and y'all read this story, it was funny, but it wasn't funny. It was really sad to wake up or to be born into true life and realize all them voices that you had been hearing were lies, right? And now you have become a slave in the false god's kingdom, or you trapped in Hada for a period of time, right? Kapilia, page 389, of India and Oahspe, living more than 3,400 years ago in the cycle of Lika, a lawgiver who restored the believers in one great spirit to hold property and to have the same rights as the worshippers of gods and lords. He was to India very similar what Moses was to the ancient Jews. As Moses was a foster child of the king of Egypt, so was Kapilia a foster child of the king of India, both receiving a profound education. Moses, page 420, an Egyptian lawgiver. He was contemporaneous with Kapilia of India and Chine of China, living more than 2,400 years after Abram, 3,400 BK, or BK stands for before Cosmon, or before the Cosmon era, right? And we're in the Cosmon era now, so it's 3,400 years before our era began, which began, I believe it was 1881. Moses was a large man, a pure Ehuan, copper-colored, and of great strength, educated as a prince by his foster father Pharaoh, king of Egypt and master of many languages. He rebuilt what had been lost since Abram's time and also taught the Zarathustrian doctrine of one great spirit. Moses taught the true Moses, right? Because remember, we found out while reading Moses' story the first time that there were lies told about Moses. And he even questioned it. He said, well, what about the lies that are going to be told about me, or that are being told about me, about what I really did and about who I truly am? The Creator was like, don't worry about that. We're going to shake that out. And it's being shaken out here in our era. We're like, what? So we're putting all these missing pieces of Moses together. It was like, holy crap. Now it makes sense, right? Because they added words into Moses' mouth. Said Moses allowed them to do some stuff that Moses never uttered. He never uttered from his mouth, right? Angela, shalom. Nene, shalom, sis. Okay. He rebuilt what had been lost since Abram's time and also taught the Zarathustrian doctrine of one great spirit, whom they worshiped secretly under the name Jehovah. But in public worship and to avoid persecution, they called him God or Lord. The name Jehovah was maintained by Moses as too sacred to be spoken, save in whisper with mouth to ear. He taught that the angels who ministered unto mortal nations and empires were titled God or Lord. Chime, page 445. A lawgiver contemporaneous with Capella and Moses. He was an ix-xii, and like Moses, he was of copper color and very large, but his hair was red like a fox. He was the founder of China and restored the rights of believers in Jehovah throughout that great country. Some of his miracles have never been excelled. And so we also find out by reading through here, especially what we know about China today, some of the things that they post on social media and the news and everything, why they say the church is going underground, because China was really trying to return to the worship of the one great spirit. And they should be driving the church underground. And I know that sounds like blasphemy to lovers of Jesus and those that worship him as God, right? But as we read through here and we get a little bit more detail other than the propaganda that our great states provide to us, right, or indoctrinate us with, we begin to be able to read between the lines, and some of those missing pieces we begin to find and put them together to see the overall of what's truly happening, right? Sakaya, page 604, sometimes erroneously called Buddha. He lived more than 2,500 years ago and was an East Indian by birth, holding to the doctrines of one great spirit only. He was of sub-cycle rank. The term Buddha was wrongly attached to him by his followers over 1,000 years after his death, right? They made this man an idol too. After he died, they still worshiping him. Going to Chinese places and you can see a fat Buddha sitting on the counter everywhere, sometimes by the door, and they offering food to him daily. I don't know, I'm like, if you don't get this crap up from away from this door. Sakaya, page 604. Sometimes erroneously called Buddha. He lived more than 2,500 years ago and was an East Indian by birth, holding the doctrines of one great spirit only. He was of sub-cycle rank. The term Buddha was wrongly attached to him by his followers over 1,000 years after his death. He did not encourage God or Lord worship. He taught that man's highest attainment was to live for the sake of others and not for one's self. He established convents, nunneries, and monasteries in many places in India. Caillou, page 610, erroneously called Confucius, an ix-xii, a lawgiver of sub-cycle rank in China, living more than 2,500 years ago. He was one of the most learned men that had ever lived and has still today a substantial number of followers in China. He taught the doctrine of one great spirit and to worship him only. He abridged 18,000 books of the ancients, taking the cream of all of them and condensed them into about 20 books. Kind of what Constantine did, right? When bringing together the Holy Bible, he literally took what he thought to be the cream of the crop from all of these religions. That's why Christianity is like this big melting pot, because they pull stuff from everywhere and just plop, there you go. But Constantine thought he was doing what was good, right? Because he went to every religion. Let's find the best practices, the highest light from this religion, because let's just practice the highest light all over the world. We can all just worship together. That was Constantine's thinking, right? And we find that out because they go over Constantine and what he did. And you can go back, you can check through the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, all of that, and just kind of look into this stuff and further verify it, right? But there are some things that you won't see that was already written that you can, well, how should I say that? You can just you can corroborate the history, right? What you find out with all these missing pieces. And even by looking at what's happening today, you can see the outcome of what they did, and some things you can know to be the truth just because of the results that it got, right? Hold on. Joshua, page 624. Like Caillou and Sakaya, He was a lawgiver of sub-cycle rank. He was of Jewish birth and also an ix-xii, born near Jerusalem more than 2,000 years ago. His predecessors were of the tribe called Essenes, or non-resistance. He labored to bring Jews back to their pristine purity. He was a severe preacher, denounced by the people as a blasphemer, and was stoned to death in Jerusalem. Christianity calls him Jesus. Remember the etymology of the whole ix-xii thing? They change a lot about his life. And the story that we get is after all the changes, right? They call him Jesus. He was a real person. Remember, we went through that whole, was this even a real person while we're trying to figure all this out? He was a real person, but he'd been toyed with a whole lot in the Bible, right? So coming back here, you can get the, not only you solve the issue of the J, well, there won't no J, and people, that's a lower light understanding, right? Keep on going. Understand what an ix-xii is, and then you can look and see what they did and made them into this other person and created other things. Even his death, they got wrong, right? Not, they don't even say they get it wrong. They created another way that he died. They hung him on the Oahspe, right? Or the cross, right? Or the prophet's wheel, right? They hung him on the prophet's wheel, the cross. You just don't see the circle around it. But he was actually the real Joshua. The real person was actually stoned to death. Let me read it again. Like Caillou and Zacchaeus, he was a lawgiver of sub-cycle rank. He was of Jewish birth and also an ix-xii, born near Jerusalem more than 2,000 years ago. His predecessors were of the tribe called Essenes, or non-resistance. He labored to bring the Jews back to their pristine purity. He was a severe preacher, denounced by the people as a blasphemer, and was stoned to death in Jerusalem. He also taught the doctrine of the Great Spirit only. It had been supposed that the so-called Sermon on the Mount that appears in the Christian New Testament, was a plagiarism of Joshua's teachings, appropriated by the first ecumenical council under the direction of the Emperor Constantine, right? And just kind of gave you like a little bit of history about Constantine. All right, the preface. Well, we at 30 minutes. Okay. So we're going to read the preface, and then we're going to pause, right? And then we're going to open up the field guide to the spirit world. But you know what? Hold on. Introduction, editor's notes. Because it's Sunday, right? We can. The introduction gone. It's not that long, but me reading it, it's gonna take a little longer. So we're gonna pause after the preface. I'm gonna get my bookmarks from all the way in the back of the book. Bring them back to the front. Hold on. I love that this has 2 bookmarks. Okay. Let me just kind of stick this. Put this one. Hold on. Let me stick this one here. The voice of man. Okay. All right. Preface. Hold on. Okay. I thought one of the babies had one out there, and I thought Jeremiah was in his room making music. He's out in the garage working out. Okay. Okay. Page 11, or page ix-xii. Is Oahspe true? Does it have a message of value? Whether you are a theistic, mystic, deist, agnostic, atheist, or anything in between, if you believe nothing else, you at least must believe that you are blessed with intelligence and the ability to reason. Granting at least that, then let no one else do your thinking for you. Hey, calm down, y'all. Hannah, shalom. Prince, shalom, shalom. Hold on. Y'all got y'all highlighters. Highlight that portion where it says, then let no one else do your thinking for you. All right? And that's the whole point of reading through here. Well, let's just finish reading. this and listen to the comments that he makes. Yes, baby. I see. Don't put your fingers in there. Whether you are a theist, mystic, deist, agnostic, atheist, or anything in between, if you believe nothing else, you at least must believe that you are blessed with intelligence and the ability to reason. Granting at least that, then let no one else do your thinking for you. Do not let anyone else's opinion of whether Oahspe is true or not true influence your judgment. Do not let other people, regardless of their credentials, preempt your freedom to think and decide for yourself. Do yourself the favor of reading the book from beginning to end in its entirety and without skipping from place to place, which can cause misunderstandings, right? We sometimes are known for that. Just give me the good stuff. They talk about Jesus over there, and give me the pages for Jesus, right? Yeah, it does, but you probably shouldn't skip, right? And we can see that happening with the unauthorized cherry pickers, because that's what they do. They skipping around to pull out stuff to argue against it instead of doing their due diligence as a true researcher and reading the information all the way through to make sure it's kept within its appropriate context, right? And anybody that's read it through and you listen to somebody that hasn't, they try to pull one over on you, you can look at you ain't really read it, have you? You haven't read it, have you? You did some skipping around, didn't you? Do yourself the favor of reading the book from beginning to end in its entirety and without skipping from place to place, which can cause misunderstandings. Then, if it speaks truth to your inner being, if it reinforces your values of love and service to others, if it offers an expansive view of the universe that is refreshingly uplifting and portrays a destiny set in motion by our Creator that to your mind is more logical, rational, and fair than what you have been exposed to in the past, then embrace it as a guide and a foundation for your own future growth. And we found that to be true. By going in here, I had just heard about Oahspe. Remember how we got started reading this? Somebody mentioned it, SIL, right? He mentioned this, and he had to say it like 3 times before. I was like, oh, you know what? It's a fun-looking word. It's fun to say, oh, why? I was like, Oahspe, what? How you say it? Oahspe. Oahspe, right? Listen. If you find that it does not speak to your condition, then all you have lost is some time well spent in search for the truth. And we know if you're consistent with reading it on a daily basis and taking one day off for the Sabbath, you can get through it just like we did in 170 days. Exactly. Right? If you read the amount of pages that we read, and you can divide that, and that's 6 months you can say 6 months, right? 6 months, because if you add the Sabbaths in, it would put us over the 170 days, right? All you have lost is some time well spent in search for the truth, which averages to about 5 pages a day, right?
You got some beautiful children and bad grandbabies.
Thank you, sir. Let me go back.
Huh?
Hold on. No, I was talking to them.
Time for meditation.
All right.
Is it 10 minutes or 5 minutes?
I don't know. Then,
Huh?
what?
My bad, Jojo. I was just asking. Do I meditate for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes?
That's your choice. How long do you want to meditate? Then, if it speaks truth to your inner being, if it reinforces your values of love and service to others, if it offers an expansive view of the universe that is refreshingly uplifting and portrays a destiny set in motion by our Creator that to your mind is more logical, rational, and fair than what you have been exposed to in the past, then embrace it as a guide and a foundation for your own future growth. If you find that it does not speak to your condition, then all you have lost is some time well spent in search for the truth. We assure you that in no way will you be personally diminished by your efforts, for within all experience will be found the seeds of growth. The quest for knowledge should be an ending endeavor. And I guess I should have asked everybody. I told y'all about my experience and what I found reading through the first time. But y'all put in the chat, those who've been here and have read it. Have you found that it's helped you in your spiritual walk and understanding things? Or did you find that it didn't do anything for you? Like you didn't profit either way, right? You didn't gain any, you didn't lose any. And those, if you think you actually lost time, it was a complete waste of your time, be honest. What did you get from reading it? All right. Put it in there. I'll read y'all comments later. What you have before you is the second edition of Oahspe. There were two. The first was published in 1882 and the second, slightly re-edited version in 1891. We have compared both editions word for word, and we offer our humble assurance that the differences between the two are negligible and in no way alter the overall message or narration of the text. Now, we know that this first edition in 1881 is not actually the first edition. The first edition, straight, without any kind of changes, is the John Lant plates, which we're going to go get, right? We're going to get copies of, which is being held in New Mexico State University archives, right? That's the original before John Newborough made changes and added things and took things away by the talking in his ear of his Freemason buddies, right? So what we actually get, the printing that they call the first, is actually the second. The second is actually the third, right? While there is some debate as to how the editing for the second edition was conducted, we find the point to be inconsequential since most changes relate to typographical, did I say that right? Typographical errors, grammar, or aesthetic considerations that are, in the final analysis, of little consequence. These minor differences, which are annotated throughout the book in the footnotes, should be no cause for concern because the big picture is all that matters. Oahspe, even in its own words, was never intended to be a perfect book, to be quoted chapter and verse as a substitute for personal discernment or with a stroke of finality to establish a sect or dictate a creed. And this is what some people don't really understand, right? Oahspe was given to actually give a deeper history and to untangle some things that had been tangled up throughout the years. Or people say, oh, this is a brand new religious book, completely replaces the Bible. I don't really think so. I think it brings clarity to the Bible, who's actually speaking in the Bible, so people aren't following false gods, which they're absolutely doing in the Bible. Those who think that they're actually following the Creator and hearing the voice of the Creator are ignorant that they are not. That's what Oahspe came to bring light to in history of the world and how it progressed, the cycles of man, even how the earth develops in its cycles from birth all the way to the ending where, it's where it's no more, right? What this brings clarity to. For people like, at least in my understanding and my reading through it and doing the research for the last 6 months. Oahspe, even in its own words, was never intended to be a perfect book to be quoted chapter and verse as a substitute for personal discernment or with a stroke of finality to establish a sect or dictate a creed. If you are seeking such a book, you have come to the wrong place. Oahspe reaffirms the truth that predated all religions, sects, or creeds. Sects, S-E-C-T-S, sects. I know sometimes it may sound wrong the way I pronounce it. Oahspe directs us toward the all light, the inner light, the I am, that one source within for our ultimate guidance. Oahspe is offered as a textbook of sorts, one guiding light to help on that path. While the physical distance between one's self and one's inner soul is very short, yet the journey we need to follow to reach that inner source within our souls is a very long one. Listen for that voice within your own being for your ultimate guidance rather than seeking it within the covers of this or any other book. Without apology, This is the overriding message offered by this most unusual book, the Lois Incorporated, 2016. All right, y'all. So this is where we're going to pause at for today for this. And we're about to get into the field guide. Okay, so let's read what y'all said about if it helped y'all or not before we go on. All right, so I just asked if you're just coming in. Global Purpose, hey, girl, hey. I shared with the first reading how it's helped enlighten me over these last 6 months and bring clarity to a lot of things I had already learned from the Bible, spiritually applying it to my life. I realized a lot of questions that I was still having, even though I came out of the indoctrination of the church. This helped bring clarity to a lot of stuff, even the titles and stuff that we see in the Bible, but it doesn't really give definitions and explanation for a lot of these things. But once you get those definitions and then go back and read the Bible again, it's clear, it's laid out bare, and it's like you see a whole new story taking place that actually makes sense, right? This gives a lot of missing pieces. Okay. Yes. All right, so Global Purpose said, yes, it opened my eyes. Jamia said, it's definitely assisting me in my spiritual walk. Vanette said, it has been a great blessing. I've learned so much. Set Apart Living said, oh, it jumped. Hold on. Somebody must add another comment. Jump. It was very uplifting and revealing about things hidden. Kendrick said, yes, it has helped me tremendously. A true blessing. It has answered many questions that no pastor has ever been able to answer or explain. Tikva said, beneficial and enlightening. Ever so grateful for all you have given to helping me through this journey. The Oahspe has and is bringing me closer to our Creator and has lifted the God spell. Amen, right? Set Apart said, also for me, it answered a whole lot of questions. Shebrew said, yes. Mom, hey girl, hey, shalom, shalom. Shebrew said, it answered all my questions and questions I didn't know I had. All praises to the Creator. Great Spirit, shalom, brethren. They over in the UK. Peace, love, and light through our Creator Jehovah. Hold on. And Shebrew said, and all hate. Hold on. Let me go back. She said, it answered all my questions and questions I didn't know I had, and all hate. And all hate. I'm assuming, based on like conversation and different things you said, it's helping to like eradicate the hate like that the Bible teaches you. Because the Bible, if you're not aware of what you're being taught, it's kind of, ooh, are you sure the Creator is doing this? Okay. Tabitha, remember, Keon Cooper is Tabitha, y'all. She using her son account. She said, for me, it was a great moment connecting with others who study Oahspe like myself. Also, I gained further understanding from Sister Pam and the chat room, so thanks to all. And if I remember correctly, it's Tabitha's church that actually, as a whole, teaches and goes through Oahspe, right? I was like, that's amazing. You actually got a church that's actually doing that? And she's in Trinidad. Prince, shalom, shalom, nephew. She would say, yes, at first your journey is lonely due to the world being led by the Bible. Oh, the Bible. I like how you spell that, the Bible. B-Y-E-B-U-L-L, the Bible. Hannah said, it has been a blessing and has taught me about many questions that I had and didn't know how or who to ask. And Tikva said, it gave me a new family full of brothers and sisters I never had. I know, right? I love you guys. All right, y'all. So thank y'all for that. Thank y'all. I think I'm a copy and paste, if y'all don't mind. If y'all don't want me to copy and paste y'all stuff in like the community section on Facebook, then tell me, don't add my comment. I think I'm gonna share it. I think it might be helpful for those that are coming and seeing, and you know, shucks, I might even see, I still don't know how to do it yet. I might even kind of cut the little clip out from here and just paste it so people can see who's looking for it, just kind of looking for different insight before they actually get started. Okay. All right, y'all. So pull out Miss Susan B. Martinez's book. She gave us authorization to, she said, you can read any of my books anytime, right? She authorized us to read this because I didn't want to violate any copyrights or anything like that, right? Okay. So Field Guide to the Spirit World The Science of Angel Power, Discarnate Entities, and Demonic Possession. Susan B. Martinez, PhD. Forward by Whitley Strieber. And just in case you didn't know, if you haven't been here for any of this, Susan B. Martinez, this sister is a true faithist indeed. She has a whole library on her study of not just Oahspe, but even spiritual insight that she's had with supernatural things and doing some investigations with a lot of stuff, like questions that we had, like supernatural stuff that be happening to us. Right, she gives Oahspe talks about it, but she goes like a step further, giving insight into a lot of those things, giving real time, real life examples from our time, things that we know we've heard about on the news and what's happening behind the scenes, right? So it's like it's like when you read about this, then you got like a quiz time, or you will run into an incident to where you have the ability or the opportunity, shall I say, to apply the knowledge that you've learned, right? Okay, so let me read the back of this again, the back cover, right? And if you don't have it, you can get it from Amazon. I ain't got no special link. Just type in this, and it'll pop up, and you can purchase from there. That's what I did, right? Listen, and I'm not making any kind of money off of any of these extra books that we bring in. Is strictly for our spiritual growth, right? And I give y'all the same link I get, or I just tell you go type it in Amazon, or you can type or go look it up, get it. This is the version, whatever, right? Okay. And on the back of this, it's funny because they have occult. And I found out that occult, I found this out even before I came across Oahspe. Occult simply means hidden, right? But when the church teaches you about occult, they put spooky connotations and scary things on top of it to keep you away from the information. And once I got enough strength or kicked a little bit of my fear out the door, I was able to go check into some of those things because they were calling to me. And I was praying and hoping that it wasn't Satan calling out to me, trying to get me off, right? I'm like, Father, before I even started getting some of this stuff, I was like, well, I know I'm going to hear clearly if I fast. So I would add in like a couple days fasting before I go do certain stuff, because I was like, Father, I really don't want to get off. I said, I spent too long in Christianity being led astray. I ain't come out of there just to get trapped into something else, right? So I did what I know to do. I just fasted for a couple days or whatever so I could make sure I could hear clearly, right? And come to find out, a lot of the stuff that they got labeled occult is things that they truly want to hide from you, because these are the things that will really set you free and help you understand, especially about spiritual things. Because even though the church teaches about spiritual things, it's just like it's always the same kindergarten, preschool type stuff. Like, is that it? That's all it is, just Satan. That's it. That's the best. Like, but this like gives you like, okay, before Satan even gets involved, let me show you what happens, how you even open a door, right? That's what you'll find over here, right? So don't let that on the back, or even let the word occult throw you off, right? Trust me. I ain't gonna say just trust me like blindly, but check into some of the things I'm saying, right? Yes, baby. You want to eat it? Hold on. Where Daddy? Daddy still asleep? Yeah. This like super soft. Hold on. Let me put this on. Hold on, y'all. Let me grab this. Here. Want to get up here on the chair? Right here. I need this banana, y'all. Hold on. Banana. There you go. Banana. Yes. There you go. All right, y'all. Okay, so on the back, a very helpful book that will guide you to open your spiritual vision to protect yourself from and benefit from the entities that inhabit the spirit world. And that little comment was made by Robert R. Harmonious, PhD, co-author of The Secret Life of Lady Liberty, Goddess in the New World, and co-host of 21st Century Radio. We are spirits housed in a body, and just as houses can be haunted, so can people. What's crazy is if y'all go back earlier this year when right before we first started reading on Oahspe, that video where I was freaking out, it's called Julian Spirits. It's crazy because I didn't realize that experience was helping prepare me of what I would be learning in Oahspe. Like I knew we're spirits that live in bodies, but I actually had the experience where there was a clear definition between my spirit and my body as I found myself in the outer body state and couldn't wake my body up. And my husband and my son Josiah was sitting there at the foot of the bed having a conversation, and I'm screaming, trying to get their attention. It was like I was encased in a tomb, right? And I was freaking out till I really understood many weeks later what was happening to me. And it was really beneficial for my growth, right? Because it just helped me understand a whole lot. Yes, her book also, I'm better turn it down. I'm not sure that her book is in not necessarily in PDF. Hold on. Hold on, baby. All right, put it back upstairs. It is in Kindle. If you go on Amazon, it's on Audible, paperback version, as well as Kindle, which can be considered a PDF, but you can't just like pull it from Google, like give me the PDF version. You actually have to purchase the Kindle version in your reader, but it's there. Yeah. So yeah, Christianity leads brothers and sisters to believe anything to do with spirits is demonic. They do. This brings clarity and it teaches you. The best thing that I've learned from Oahspe, it sharpens your discernment, not just the spiritual world, but also with discerning truth and error here in the flesh, right? In this corporal world, right? Yeah. Angela Oahspe validated my disinterest in religion. Yeah. Okay. We are spirits housed in a body, and just as houses can be haunted, so can people. When the living succumb to dissociative states of consciousness, they become a magnet for lost but clinging spirits, known as jinn, dibuk, daemon, wakwabi, or simply the undead, or what Christianity likes to call them, demons, right? They hover unseen on the earth plane, ready to inhabit the most suitable body available. Documenting the life of wandering spirits and their impact on vulnerable human targets, Susan Martinez offers a radical departure from the standard psychological... That's trash, Pooh. Hold on. Documenting the life of wandering spirits and their impact on vulnerable human targets, Susan Martinez offers a radical departure from the standard psychological explanations for a host of pathological behaviors, including multiple personality, autism, epilepsy, migraines, obsessive compulsive disorder, depression, schizophrenia, anxiety, PTSD, self-destructive urges, and strange outbursts, and reveals that hallucinations are often true impressions of spirit input as well as reincarnation. There's a whole chapter dedicated to reincarnation. Little girl, hey. It's a whole chapter dedicated to reincarnation and just goes into further detail in what Oahspe teaches us that really is. It's not a reincarnation when you come back and live multiple lives. That means your spirit, your native spirit, the real you have been put in abeyance and another spirit is taking over your body. That's what they call reincarnation. They get a fresh new body to operate in. And then when this body dies, they just hop to another body. Just like the movie Fallen, the spirit hopping from body to body. That's what true reincarnation is, which is why people who are put in abeyance, their spirit is put in abeyance, they begin to talk about their past lives, and with accuracy, if you go back and do some research on these people that they say that they were in past lives, you can find it. And it's true, right? But it's not reincarnation as they teach you, like that was one of your past lives. No, there's a spirit that is inhabiting your body alongside you, and it could be multiple, it could be legions, just depending on what you got into and how open you left yourself. That's who's talking, using your faculties, your body, your looks, your voice. And people are fooled thinking that it's you. That's why I love Oahspe in regards where it helps you to discern truth between truth and error, and how to decipher who is speaking through a person, right? This needs not only this and this, all of this need to be in deliverance ministry for the Christian church. And it might be a little bit more effective. You get people that say that they deliver. No, they done faked you out, and they didn't just switch to a more quiet altar spirit that's really been studying you for a very long time, can act just like you, but they ain't delivered. They is not delivered. There's a bunch of them still in there. The other ones just fell back a little bit. Oh shoot, we about to lose our home. Y'all better like y'all got some sense. Where Patty at? Patty, get on up here. You know how she really act for real. Get up here. Patty, you need to lead this for a little while. Because they ain't trying to lose their home. They ain't trying to be kicked out of their house. Yahweh Shalom. Look. Okay. Martinez explains how mental health comes down to the delicate balance between self-control and spirit control. When trauma triggers an escape response, the soul takes flight, leaving the mind susceptible to possession and discarnate entities. That chapter is really, really good. Really, really good, because it helped me locate. I mentioned a couple times what happened to somebody that I know and love, right? And putting these things together, trauma can also you can choose to put your own self like in that sunken place. And if spirits are around that finds that you are like a prime target for them because you decided to draw yourself within because of your traumas, they become prime targets for our brethren and sister who no longer have their physical bodies, ones who died. And they could be the recently dead, right? And they could have been dead many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, right? But they're still lingering around here on the earth because they haven't yet continued to grow and lifted from this first resurrection. When trauma triggers an escape response, the soul takes flight, leaving the mind susceptible to possession by discarnate entities. However, the spirit world can also bestow gifts upon those whose psyches are open, such as in the case of mediums, shamans, people who communicate with angels, and many of the world's creative geniuses. Martinez presents overshadowing by the spirits as a universal cross-cultural phenomenon, documenting modern and traditional accounts as well as corroborating indigenous beliefs. She examines soul decay, soul travel, both before and after death, as well as how knowledge of the spirit world can offer positive treatments for disorders like schizophrenia and autism. Providing a detailed guide to the spirit world and its inhabitants, the author offers checklists of symptoms of overshadowing methods from the world's top exorcists and instructions on how to free spirits so they can continue their journey into the beyond. All the tools necessary to forearm us against soul snatchers and other enemies of the light, right? Spirits that do this can be considered enemies of the light, right? Okay, so let's open it up. First page. Spendy love. Shalom, shalom. Okay. Yeah, this is the book. I'll post it again. It's in the community section, but I post it again. We already got done with today's reading of Oahspe. This time around, half the time we're here, we're going to read Oahspe. And then the second half, we're bringing in other resources and materials that helps us further understand some of what we read in Oahspe. And real life, real time experiences and stuff, right? So it's like, this is like the lab part of class, what I like to call lab part of class. Page 1, Field Guide to the Spirit World. The depth and quality of research exemplified by Susan B. Martinez, PhD, in her previous books are evident again in Field Guide to the Spirit World. The spirit world is all around us all the time, and this very helpful book provides a key to the spiritual world and a guide to working with it for the treatment of mental disorders caused by overshadowing. As Whitley Strieber says in his foreword, step out of the prison of materialism in order to see such experiences in ways that might deepen our understanding of ourselves and the amazing universe, as Strieber demonstrates when he talks about the loss of his wife and how that opened his spiritual vision. Robert R. Hieronymus, Ph.D., co-author of The Secret Life of Lady Liberty, Goddess in the New World, and co-host of 21st Century Radio. From all accounts, the world beyond the veil is a labyrinth chock full of entities, both good and ill. With her new book, Field Guide to the Spirit World, The Science of Angel Power, Discarnate Entities, and Demonic Possession, Susan B. Martinez has contributed an important work that helps to demystify the other side. It warrants an important place on your 14 bookshelf, and more importantly, in your hands as you read and learn. Jim Harrell, host of the Paranormal Podcast. Okay. To Joan Greer, a.k.a. Gypsy, beautiful and beloved daughter of Jehovah. All right, we got the table of contents, the first of which is the foreword by Whitley Strieber. Then you have the introduction, which is entitled The Final Bound. Chapter 1 is Spirit at Large. Chapter 2 is Flight of the Soul. Chapter 3 is The Black Dog Unleashed. Chapter 4 is Soul Murder. Chapter 5 is entitled I Shall Walk in the Sky. Chapter 6 is The Unseen Guest. Chapter 7, Countless Mental Vagaries. Chapter 8, The Overshadowing. Chapter 9, Possession. Chapter 10, The Reincarnation Hoax. Chapter 11, Freeing the Ghost. And that is the last chapter. It's 11 chapters. Then you have 3 appendixes, which are labeled A, B, and C. Appendix A is Corporal Layla, or like the corporal world. Corporal Layla, I'm probably saying that wrong. Appendix B is Exposure to Death, and Appendix C is Trauma. Then you have the bibliography and the index, right? Okay, so let's start with the foreword. Foreword by Whitley Strieber. The near-death experience, the UFO abductee, the out-of-body traveler, the medium, the psychic. Who are these people and their unusual perceptions of the world around them? Who are these people and are their unusual perceptions of the world around them somehow linked? In this powerful book, Susan Martinez sets out to explore the soul from the standpoint of a new scientific vision that discards the materialist assumptions that have so far limited the willingness of professionals in the field to address unusual phenomena without those assumptions. As an out-of-body traveler and UFO witness who was married to a woman who had a life-changing near-death experience, I am well acquainted with the strange unwillingness, or is it inability, of scientists to approach these phenomena in a way that might actually advance knowledge. Because a lot of times they don't want to deal with it, and they're not, they want to keep things like church and state separate. They don't want to mingle all of this. They want to be able to keep their thumbs on everything without really addressing what's happening spiritually. So what they'll do, they'll just give you drugs to medicate you and shut you up. We don't want to deal with that. Put them over there in the corner. Just build something, put them over there. That's messing up the flow of life for us. When in reality, they're experiencing the flow of life. There are a lot of people who experience the spiritual side more than the physical side. And there should be those of us who are developed on both areas. Matter of fact, we should be developed from the time we come from the womb, equally balanced, being taught about not just about the physical life. All they teach us is physical, but we should be getting an even balance of spiritual as well. Like, we should know these things growing up to where they won't become these big problems when you get here. Now you got to have mental institutions because nobody wanted to train the spiritual side of us, right? I must say what I think, that spirit itself is on Susan's side. Let me tell you why. In April of 2016, I was attending a conference at the Institute of Noetic Sciences in Petaluma, California, when I had an extremely unusual experience. Every night of my life, I meditate at 11 and again at 3. This is trying, of course, but I have compelling reasons to do it involving contact with my deceased wife, but we will get into that shortly. On that night, I was exhausted from a long day of travel and participation in the conference. Nevertheless, I woke myself up at 3 and did the meditation. Then I fell back into bed. An hour later, a terrific shock went down my spine. I sat up in bed, startled, wide awake. I said to myself and to whomever I meditate with, I've already meditated, don't wake me up again. But I sat and meditated for another 10 minutes anyway, then fell into the bed. An instant later, I found myself in the corridor of the small dormitory in which I was housed. I was astonished. How had this happened? My door was closed. Was I now locked out until morning? Then I realized that I was once again out of my body. I had been in this state a number of times before and previously on occasion had enabled people to see me. I thought to myself that I should try to make myself seen at this conference of scientists and professors. I was here to upset the paradigm after all. And as I cannot leave my body on my own, I've tried for years, somebody had done this to me, and my guess was that it was to challenge the very paradigm that Susan so brilliantly upsets in the following pages. I went through the wall into the conference leader's room, but he was absolutely asleep. I have no idea how a bodiless person might awaken somebody who is asleep, so I then went from room to room until I found a conferee who had his eyes open. I went beside his bed and looked down at him. He reacted with a surprise that I was in his room. I thought, am I out of body or not? He didn't seem to think so. We spoke together for a few minutes. I was able to see his life hopes and fears, almost as if they were somehow written on his face, carved into his expression, as it were. Then I abruptly shot upward, completely out of control, until I was so high that I could see the curvature of the earth and the line of dawn far to the east. I was shocked to my core. Compared to this, my previous OBEs, OBE is an acronym for out-of-body experience, right? And this is not far-fetched to those of us who have this happen to us all the time, all right? Some people call it astral projection. We call it out-of-body experiences. Paul from the Bible, he said, I didn't know whether I was in the body or out of the body. Maybe it was a vision. Then I abruptly shot upward, completely out of control, until I was so high that I could see the curvature of the earth and the line of dawn far to the east. I was shocked to my core. Compared to this, my previous OBEs had been child's play. I then shot downward and eastward, finding myself on what appeared to be a college campus. The sun was either rising or setting. I could not tell which, but it had been about 4:15 a.m. in Petaluma. Therefore, I assumed that I was in the eastern United States and it must be 7:15 a.m. I moved about on the campus, trying to unsuccessfully show myself to a young man I was walking along a sidewalk. Then I went into a building, which proved to be a dormitory. I went down the hall into a room, but found the occupant was sound asleep. I had never been so far from my body in this state, so I decided that I wanted to go back. I went outside and tried to think how I would do that. As I did, I rose into the air, once again going to a great height, and then sped down and back into my body. And just in case you didn't know, if you have out-of-body experiences, when you realize you're in an out-of-body state and you get scared, like especially when it first started happening to you, all you got to do to get back to your body is just think about your body, and you will literally, that'll happen. You will, next thing you know, you're shooting back to where your body is, and your spirit goes back in your body, and you wake up. Like, seriously, this is how I be waking up sometimes. Then I know that I've been astral projecting or had out-of-body experiences. It's wild. I'd never been so far from my body in this state, so I decided that I wanted to go back. I went outside and tried to think how I would do that. As I did, I rose into the air, once again going to a great height, then sped down and back into my body. Exhausted, excited, and a little frightened. Frankly, I thought I would get up and greet the dawn. I did not feel at all sleepy, but the next thing I knew, my travel alarm was ringing and it was 7:30. Not expecting much, I went to breakfast where, to my surprise, everybody was talking about the fact that one of the conferees had waked up. It says waked up. Had waked up and found me in his room. He had talked to me for a short time, whereupon I had gone out through the ceiling. I was naturally called upon to explain myself, so I told the full story of the experience. 2 of the other conferees recognized the campus. It was theirs. A year later, they invited me to join them there, and I had the remarkable experience of actually entering a building that I had seen previously only in the out-of-body state, going down the hall and standing at the door of the dorm room I had entered. At the present time, science dismisses all of this as impossible. SuperNatural Poppycock. Matter of fact, that might be our title for today. SuperNatural Poppycock. OBEs can be induced in the lab, after all. They can, but nothing even close to this has ever been reported, which they absolutely can. Remember, before we even got started reading My Big Toe, we read the CIA document that where they actually released, after they screw up some stuff that they didn't want us to see, and they showed you how they use it, right? They use OBEs. They will induce the state of OBEs, and they use that as a form of their warfare. They really do. They steal trade secrets. They may not call it stealing. They spy on the enemy. They use the military, and they put them through this process of a week of doing this. And if you're actually going to be trained, it should be longer than a week, so it has an opportunity to develop as you're understanding and learning how to actually operate in your body. But a lot of these guys that did this military, they didn't offer them any kind of counseling or anything after that. And some of them, it became too much. After the military got done using them, they just pretty much got rid of them. I mean, not killed them, but they just, and they didn't know how to handle it, right? They had been opened up to all this spiritual realm without proper guidance on how this should be developing naturally over the course of your lifetime. And the military just bunched it all into one period for their own purpose, selfish uses, right? And left these men and women destroyed, open to the spiritual realm. And a lot of them, they got all these mental issues and stuff going on with them. They don't know how to operate. They don't know how to function because they have been opened up to something that they don't know how to control yet, right? At the present time, science dismisses all of this as impossible. SuperNatural Poppycock. OBEs can be induced in the lab, after all. They can, but nothing even close to this has ever been reported. As to the man who saw me, he must have been dreaming. Chalk that one up to coincidence. And the campus? Maybe I had been there before. Or maybe the 2 professors simply wanted to believe, simply wanted to believe and innocently confabulated their beliefs that I was describing my campus. I would submit that Susan makes an important argument in the Field Guide to the Spirit World that these phenomena are not in some way supernatural and therefore outside of the realm of scientific inquiry, but rather that they are part of the natural world and our experience of it that we do not yet understand. On August 11, 2015, my beloved wife of 45 years, Ann Schreiber, died. As I lay beside her body, enveloped in grief, all of my belief in afterlife left me. I was devastated. Her terrible stillness screamed out to me, "You're alone. She's gone. You're alone." From the depth of my love and grief, I asked her, "Do you still exist? Can you let me know?" An hour and a half later, a friend who did not yet know of her death called. She said, "Whitley, I just had a feeling that Ann wanted me to call. Is she all right?" I said to her, "Belle, Ann died at 7:15. Thus began the most powerful and mind-changing life experience I can think. Thus began the most powerful and mind-changing life experience I think I can imagine. Ann had begun what soon became a methodical process of contacting friends that left me with little doubt that the soul continues after death and that individual consciousness survives. A week later, I was sitting on a bench in the mountains above Palm Springs, California, consumed with grief and once again asking Ann if she was there. Literally, at that moment, my cell phone rang and there was a friend from Nashville, Claire Henry, who proceeded to say that she had just gotten a message from Ann that she should call me. She knew Ann was dead, of course. Those were two of many such incidents. I eventually recalled that the two of us had made a plan back in the 1990s that the first one to die would try to make contact if possible. But given that we both were such skeptics, we would first try to contact friends and tell them to contact the one still living. The moment that I realized Ann was carrying out our plan was unforgettably powerful. Tears came to my eyes. The gratitude and joy were just indescribable. They led to an intimate, ongoing relationship between us that has transcended death completely and led to the book that we wrote together, The Afterlife Revolution. I actually downloaded that book. That is on Audible, The Afterlife Revolution. That's actually, you can get the printed version or the Audible version. Field Guide to the Spirit World performs an essential function in that, with its careful scholarships and cognate insights into what is being missed by the materialistic paradigm that now dominates science, it offers the readers a chance to reground herself in such a way that stories like the one I have told here are no longer mysterious, distant, and seemingly